we are with Lisa Rovner, the director of Sisters with Transistors, one of the jewels of the section Let the Music Play, a film that we immediately looked for, and when we saw it, we immediately wanted it for our selection in Festival dei Popoli. Now finally we have it, and we are here with the director, and I do ask a couple of questions to Lisa. Congratulations for your great work with this film. And the first question that I want to ask you is how came out the idea of approaching this particular subject, because it's a film about the pioneering work of these sisters, these female electronic musicians that were so under-evaluated during their career, but were so important for the evolution of electronic music. So how came out the idea of approaching this subject? From the incredible footage and archival material, or from your specific interest for the subject?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. To be honest, it was a bit of both. Obviously, I am somebody who's very interested in music, but I think originally what kind of really grabbed my attention was discovering the photographs of these women. I had heard of Delia Derbyshire. I'd seen her in another documentary about the radiophonic workshop, so I knew that there were women working in electronic music, but I didn't realize just how many. And there was just something so magnetic and hypnotic about seeing these incredible women with these machines. I just immediately wanted to learn more. And the more I started researching kind of on a superficial level, the more I realized just what an amazing film this would make. There was incredible archive. They were breaking boundaries in remarkable ways. So it was really a bit of both the archive and the subject itself. And then of course, I think what came about in my initial research was the fact that this was ultimately a story about an emancipation story, a story about women being enabled by technology. I think that was what the bigger story of how this technology enabled women to be composers was the thing that really grabbed me and made me want to tell the story.
Yeah, and another challenging thing that you managed greatly was the fact that there isn't a chronological progress, an obvious chronological progress, but the need to jump up and down, forward and backwards between the career of these musicians and the evolution, a certain evolution of emancipation of women in society. So I think this was very challenging. So the fact that mixing up this thing and give it a continuous tone, maybe it was helped also by the musical track, but I think it was very hard to realize. So when did you come to this decision?
I discovered while I was, or one of the biggest questions I had while making this film is, why were these women forgotten by the canon? Why were they forgotten by history? They'd obviously been important enough at the time to be recorded, to be interviewed. And so one of the things that became apparent as I was kind of digging into this question was that I really think that the way that we tell stories, the way that we want to single out a hero, generally a male white genius, as the inventor of something, has led to the erasure of our subjects' accomplishments. So in this new telling, in this feminist telling, I wanted the stories to weave. I wanted to draw connections. I didn't want to just I wanted people to realize that, wow, there were lots of things happening at the same time. The idea of who invented what first becomes irrelevant. What's remarkable is their achievements, is what they did with sound, is how they have such an idiosyncratic way of working with sound. And that's what I wanted to highlight in the film, and through the telling, through the structure, I hope that's what comes out.
Create the continuous musical track because the intersection between the narration, the voice of Laurie Anderson, that's a voice we cared for, we loved to hear, and the intersection between her voice and the continuous musical track is one of the strongest points of this film, because it strikes me for the for the perfection of this work, of this pattern that becomes almost a living thing, a continuous electronic sound that goes along with the storytelling. And how did you realize this? And I think was the initial idea to do this, and it was a very difficult and challenging thing to realize.
To be honest, it kind of wasn't. It was the one thing that kind of fell into place organically. When I imagined this film, I imagined an oral history illustrated. So that was the kind of the way that we started the film, was kind of collecting interviews and kind of building the sound element, and then we kind of adding images to it. So, but yeah, I mean, ultimately the sounds that you hear are, you know, mostly sounds from the women's music. And then we had Marta Saloni, who's Italian, kind of come on at the end and add sound design elements. But it kind of just worked out so beautifully. I think the hardest part wasn't so much the sound, it was how to create a narrative that functioned from start to end, that was a narrative that was weaving. And I think the sound, the fact that it feels so continuous in the sound, was absolutely crucial to making the narrative feel so coherent and so and flow from one story to the next.
Mm-hmm. And what was the most surprising thing you found out during your research work? The thing that you didn't expect to find that changed maybe something in the realization of the film?
I think the thing that was so remarkable to me about these women is how eloquent they were with their words. And I think that's why the film is so, works so well, is because they were so able to express themselves and express these very complicated ideas in this incredibly lucid and yeah, they're just such great storytellers. And I think that's what makes the strength of the film. The idea from the beginning was give these women their voice. Let's hear their stories from them. And I think the real discovery, as I was doing, especially in the initial research and the initial interviews I did with the women who are still with us, was just, yeah, they were just such great storytellers. Great. So it wasn't so much about one of their remarkable inventions or ways of working with sound. It was more just how amazing they were at describing their love for sound and their lives, and yeah.
And the involvement of Laurie Anderson was intended from the beginning?
Yeah, so Laurie was somebody who I've always admired, and I absolutely love how she talks about very serious things in a very playful and very entertaining way. So as an artist, she's somebody that I've always kind of admired, and I wanted her to be part of the story, but I didn't know if having her as one of the female pioneers made sense, because in a way she wasn't as unsung as the other ones. I had known about her since I was a kid. So I knew I wanted her to be part of the film, but it had to be in a different way. And so I kind of had the idea of her narrating the film from the start. And it wasn't until later down the line that I actually approached her, once I had something to actually show. And I'm immensely happy that she said yes. And also just how easy it was working with her in general. Just she's such a natural, and that was just, yeah, made the whole thing work.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Lisa was I hope that everybody who sees this runs to see the movie, because it's a great film, and I think an experience that could change you in a lot of ways. So please enjoy your vision, even if it's just online. Enjoy the vision. Thank you.
Thank you.